Hi, I'm Becky Johnson with Sweetheart Quilt Design Company, and we're here today with our binding number 7 video. And what we're going to learn in this video is about putting the binding on table runners. So most table runners have an angle like this, where if you put your line on it of your ruler, you'll see that it's 45-degree angle. Most corners are a 90-degree angle. So this presents a little bit of a problem. If you put your binding on this corner, just like you put it on this corner, you'll end up with this weird little poof that sticks out because you've got just a little too much fabric in there. So we're going to go ahead and I'm going to show you how to do those corners so that they turn out right. Now, I'm going to sew this to the back because my binding that I chose is just too busy to put right next to this. So I want to put the accent in there that I talked about in video number 5. I talked about how to do this. Okay. And this is not a bias cut binding, it's a straight cut binding. The stripe is just printed on the diagonal. So you don't have to have a bias binding for this, but you certainly can. Now, I'm going to stitch it on the back because I want to wrap it around with the accent. Okay, so what we're going to do, I talked about trimming in the very first binding video where you trim with that extra 1/8 of an inch so that you have enough to fill up your binding without taking up more of your border fabric. So we're going to start, we're going to leave a tail so we can do our final seam. And then we're going to start about right here and come up to the corner. And I'm going to sew this on with about 1/4 of an inch seam. All right, get this out of the way. Set this up. And when I start bindings, I always do a quick little back stitch just so that when I'm fiddling with it to do that final seam, I don't pull it loose. It's not a problem pulling it loose, it's a problem because it makes little threads show. Okay, and I do have a built-in walking foot. You do want to use the walking foot for this. So we're going to come up here and we're going to stop that 3/8 of an inch in where we want to pivot. So I'm just gonna put this here to give me a visual for where 3/8 is. And you don't have to grab it perfect the first time. You can double check yourself after you pivot. And I've got about 1/8 of an inch over here, and that's what I want. Now, instead of going back 3 stitches, like we do on the 90-degree corner, we're just going to go back 2. All right. And then I'm going to take this. I don't have a magical trick with the pin like I did for the other one, but if you take it and line up your binding so it's at that 1/8 inch away and ready to go, and you fold it so that it bumps into your needle at that point. Okay, and then we're going to go forward, and I'll stitch this 90-degree one. I talked about that in video number 4, and the secrets that I gave you. We put in a pin at the place where we want to stop. So we're going to stop, needle down, one more, there we go, and pivot. This time we'll go back 3 stitches till we're off the off the binding. And then I'm going to put, now when I'm stitching it to the back, oh, that's not a straight pin. We all have a few of those in our box. So you want to put that pin in 1/8 of an inch in, because that's how we're sewing our binding on. And then you pull that pin straight down. And I went over this in binding number 4, probably number 5 also, where I talked about doing that accent. All right, and then we're on our merry way. Stop here. Actually, that pin does help. 3/8 of an inch in from both sides. We're going to pivot and go backwards 2 stitches, and then take our binding and fold it and make sure it bumps into the needle. There we go. And then we're going to take off like that. So that's how you do this for those 45-degree angles. (135-degree angles if you're a geometry person. And I'm going to go ahead and pull this out so I can show you. So then when you take this to the front, and I'm going to put that accent piece in, but if you were wrapping to the back, then it works out real nicely. You can just, we'll come around this way, and overlap that the opposite way from the back, and you can just stitch it down like that, and you see there's no extra little poofy thing out there. So that's how you do it. Thanks a bunch.